Alrighty, got another one here for you. And this is Jacob Whelan. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But yeah, he puts out good stuff. And this one stood out to me because he mentions Carl Jung in the title. And so he's going to dive into individuation and shadow work. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one. So let's get a jump on it.
So unless you're asleep, you'll probably know that there's a lot of stuff happening around us today that is not only highly concerning, it's also absolutely disgusting. Some of the stuff that's been coming to light, there's simply no excuse for. And a lot of these things, they haven't just been happening in the shadows and in the background. These are things that have been happening directly under our noses for what seems like decades. And, in a very big way, it can feel like the world right now is just being cloaked in a massive shadow, like darkness is taking over. And I've heard a lot of people talking about this. I've actually heard some people talk about how this seems biblical. Like all these things are coming to a head. Negativity is just surrounding us. And it's not going to be long before everything just ends. But is that really where we're headed? Or is there something else happening in the background that is bigger than us?
Yeah, so I've been wide awake to all this stuff for a long time. I've been privy to the agendas that have been going on where they were once questioned and they were in the shadows, but now they're just in plain sight, right? Especially after 2020. But I personally don't believe that we're in the end times, and that things will just end, because you have people have been saying that for decades and decades. So, and we're still here. It's you got to look at the cycles of history. And we're simply at the end of another cycle, right? These 80 to 100 year cycles. So I recommend reading The Fourth Turning to gain more insights and understanding about what I'm referring to, in case you're not familiar. But yeah, that's the thing, is things, they don't just stop. These systems break. The system that we're under, it was designed to have an expiration date. But the thing is that new systems always replace them. So the question is, what system will replace them? And that is where the struggle is really going to happen. I mean, we're already struggling quite a bit, but once these things completely break, we are going to have to push through them and hope for, not just hope, but work towards systems that are decentralized and that are for the flourishing of humans. And unlike the centralized system that we've been under for so long, especially post-World War II.
That's something I've been thinking about a lot, because I can't imagine that all of this stuff is just going to happen. There's going to be no consequences, and everybody's just going to get away with all this bad stuff that's been going on around us. And that has left me looking for answers. And while I've been looking for answers, I've uncovered a few truths. And one truth in particular I want to share with you is actually something that Carl Jung talked about. And I've noticed that through learning more about Carl Jung and Alan Watts and some of the other philosophers of their time, the things they talked about were not only very relevant for their time and for what they were talking about, it's also very relevant today. And it all translates to what is going on in the world around us today. And the thing from Carl Jung that really struck me and really made me realize that there might be something happening in the background that is much bigger than us, is the idea that there is a shadow within each and every one of us. And there has to be balance. And that's the key here, is that there always has to be balance. So what Carl Jung talks about is the fact that a lot of people try to be very virtuous. And we see that today. We see a lot of people adopting this virtuous mentality. And people will do things just for the sake of being virtuous, even if the thing they're doing isn't right, just so that they can appear good to the world around them. And by doing that, they're suppressing the shadow. They're pushing away the darkness that is 100% inside each and every one of us. But when you suppress the darkness and you suppress the shadow and you try to push that away, you are pushing away and suppressing a part of yourself. And that is a major problem, because instead of dealing with that darkness, learning how to control it and learning how to reconcile it, people just brush it away. They like to pretend it's not there. And by suppressing that, it festers within you. And hatred grows within your heart. And I think we see that in society today because there is a lot of hatred out there. There are a lot of people out there that are basically unhinged. People fly off the handle over the smallest, petty things. And that is because they have not reconciled the shadow that is within them. And that makes you weak. Because what happens is when something bad happens in your life and you haven't reconciled that darkness, that shadow that is within you, then it destroys you because you think that you're all good. And now this darkness has crept in and it's taking hold of you. And you feel this darkness within you, but you don't know how to control it. You don't know how to work through that problem. The more that you try to push it down and brush it away, the more that that shadow builds up inside you. And then before you know it, one bad thing happens in your life and that shadow is cast out on the world around you.
Right. So that's why it's very important, why I always talk about going through the process of individuation that Carl Jung refers to as integrating your shadow so that you can become your full self, the whole self. And if you don't do that, you inevitably become consumed by it because it doesn't remain hidden for long. These masks that you wear, suppressing it is why you see people lashing out and mental health falling off a cliff. And doing the proper shadow work, it will transform you into an emotionally regulated and capable person that can deal with those hard times ahead when they inevitably do come up. When those hard times come, you will be positioned properly and strengthened by it. It is paramount that you know what you are capable of. It is absolutely paramount that you know what you are capable of.
It's cast out on the people around you. And that is exactly what we're seeing in society today, is the fact that people are letting this shadow build up inside them because they're trying to suppress it. They're trying to believe that it's not there. And eventually that shadow expresses itself as a dark cloud that's hanging over your head, following you around through life, breeding hatred everywhere that you go. And eventually, even though you're trying to do good and you're trying to be virtuous, you end up being consumed by the shadow and you become the darkness. That is what we're seeing. And that is what Carl Jung talks about. And that's where balance comes into play.
Right. So I think Alexander Solzhenitsyn said it best in the Gulag Archipelago, that the line that divides good and evil, it cuts through the heart of every human being. Like I said, you need to be aware of what you're capable of. It is you need to acknowledge that and reconcile that. People are not inherently good. Every given the right circumstances, people are capable of evil. All people, not just some people, but everyone. And it is important to be balanced in this world that is completely imbalanced. And I do understand that the imbalance of the world, it can play a role in the adverse effects that you feel. And I feel them too. But either way, it's best to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Because when you try that hard to be good and you believe that you are the light, it has to be balanced out by the darkness. And the shadow is going to creep in. It is going to eventually overwhelm all of that energy that you've been spending into trying to be good, into trying to be the beacon of light. But for the shadow to be that prevalent today, it must also mean that it is balancing a tremendous amount of light. Where is that light? I think that light is within all of us. And I think that's kind of what we're also seeing, is that there are a lot of people that are waking up. There are a lot of people that are being forced into the position to look deep within themselves and focus on what is actually important in life. And they are realizing that, yes, we do have evil within us, and we have to embrace the fact that this bad stuff is happening. People are learning that we have to reconcile that.
Right, we do have to reconcile that. And I, for one, I can't bury my head in the sand while the world is becoming darker and darker. I'm a father first and foremost, and it's my job, it's my duty to provide for my son and to protect him in this world. And it's important for all men out there, especially fathers, to not be cowards and to face evil head on. Because, yeah, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do absolutely nothing.
we have to face it, and we have to find alternate ways to deal with this stuff. And I think one of the ways people are dealing with it is just simply acknowledging that it does exist, choosing to opt out and not participate in that, and forging their own path, rising above all the hatred and being that beacon of light. Not the virtuous just for the sake of being virtuous beacon of light. Not the compassion just for the sake of being compassionate beacon of light, but the true beacon of light, discovering the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might be, embracing it, and choosing the high road. And in that sense, I think what we might actually be witnessing is a very positive thing. Because like Carl Jung says, there has to be balance.
Right. And I know plenty of people will dismiss me talking about this on a video on YouTube. As they'll say it's doing nothing. Like they'll be like, well, what are you doing, man? You're just making a video talking about it. Well, I'm going to flip that question back on you. What are you doing? Right? All of you individuals that would say that, what are you doing? What I'm doing is I'm doing more than just making videos on YouTube. In fact, you're not even doing that. You're in my comment section asking me what I'm doing, and or also telling me that I'm not doing anything. Well, I am. I'm talking about it right now, and I've done shadow work. I've been through the process of individuation, and I continue to face that darkness within myself and make sure that I am a capable man, and that my son can become a man of virtue as well. And I'm always striving to be a virtuous man, and I'm raising the next generation of men. That is what I'm doing. And I'm fighting battles on multiple fronts. I'm fighting on this front right here, and I'm fighting on the another front that's where I'm. How do I frame this? Well, yeah, I'm fighting on this front, and I'm also fighting on the front to remain a masculine influence in my son's life, so that he will not have a childhood that he has to recover from, and that he can carry on the honor of our family name, right? So that he can be a capable man, one that other men can look up to. And so I'm fighting this fight. I'm fighting the fight to stay in his life. There are plenty of fronts that we're on. You may only see this one, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes that you're not privy to, that I am. So,
and the fact that it feels like we're being overwhelmed with darkness and the shadow is taking over the world means that the balance is occurring. And it might be kind of hard to see the light because all of the stuff that we see in the world around us is negativity, because that is the agenda and that is the narrative that is fed to us. But if what Carl Jung says is actually correct, and I truly believe that it is, then that must mean that the darker things get. In order to maintain balance, there are going to be a lot more people that are going to wake up. And even though in the moment now and in the moments ahead, it might feel like darkness is taking over, and that is the thing that is most prevalent.
Right. And what I'm saying here in this video, it's not black pill, it's not doomer, right? It's not doomer or black pill to say that things are going to get worse, because that's a fact. When you understand how these agendas work and what their end game truly is, and then when you understand how a lot of these agendas are also tied to central banks and and you understand how they operate, how many of you can say that you've sat online for over 4 hours and watched FDIC meetings and have heard from these individuals at these banks what they think about the future and how they view the public? Because I have. And most people, they don't do that because it's boring and they don't have the attention span for that. Well, guess what? I do. The dark truth, it lies in those boring 4-hour videos and white papers that they put there right in front of your face, right in plain sight, that you ignore every day. They're out there just waiting for you to read them and watch them. So what I'm saying, these aren't baseless doomer predictions or fear mongering. Just saying.
We have to understand and realize that this balance is occurring. There are a lot of people in the background that are waking up, discovering themselves, and are choosing light. They're choosing positivity. And whether they know it or not, they are casting that positivity out into the world around us, because just like the shadow, just like the darkness, the more positivity there is, the more that positivity and that light bleeds out into the world around us. So if that is you and you're realizing this and you're coming to terms with things, you're seeing things for what they really are, you're discovering yourself and you're choosing the higher road, don't stop. Cling to that and keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. Because as long as we maintain balance, the darkness can never win.
Right. And so if you aren't familiar with the process of individuation, I highly recommend that you look into Carl Jung's literature. Because if you haven't integrated your shadow and you're dismissing what I'm saying and what he's saying, then yeah, you should be afraid. And I do have a positive outlook on the new world that we could see once these systems collapse. And I will always remain realistic. Positivity, it isn't a bad thing. Sometimes things look positive, sometimes things look negative. That's just reality. But toxic positivity, that's something that I don't agree with or promote, because that comes from a place of ignorance and denial of reality. And I like to live in reality. So you can call me a black pill, you can call me a doomer. I don't consider myself that. I just consider myself someone that is trying to live in reality as best as I can and presenting that to my audience and waking people up and helping men out and making sure that we have some type of life beyond this that is worth living. Because nothing good in life is you don't get anything good without fighting for it. All these things that are worth something, you have to fight for them, and it is worth fighting for, is what I'm trying to say. Not in the most poignant, articulate way possible. This is strictly from the top of the dome and from the bottom of my heart. So thank you.